Hi, I'm Kyrie. I've studied Writing and Rhetoric Book 4. This is my Crea. Crea about St. Francis of Assisi. St. Francis of Assisi was a very kind-hearted and compassionate man who loved all people and animals. He lived from 1181 to 1226 in Assisi, Italy. St. Francis wrote a saying which is this proverb, "Not to hurt our humble brethren is our first duty to them." St. Francis started a group called the Little Brothers, or as some people called them, the Franciscan monks. Francis would give away all his money to the beggars and the cast-out, suffering lepers. On Christmas Day, he would spread breadcrumbs on the ground under a tree and would feed the hungry birds who would swoop down to eat the crumbs gratefully. The saying shows how Francis wanted everyone to be kind to all people, even beggars and other people with not very much. People should not make fun of poor people, ignore them, or hurt them. Instead, they should be loving and kind to them, just like Jesus is kind and merciful to everyone. Another way to restate the saying could be kind to everyone and do not harm them. If people do not follow St. Francis' saying, people everywhere might be without a home or a job. However, if people do obey the saying, people might be off the dirty streets, not baking as much. The reasons listed above are why it is important to obey St. Francis of Assisi's saying. Following the saying helps people, and helping people will always be pleasing to God. Because most of all, above everything else, pleasing God is what matters. Adolf Hitler is an example of someone who did not follow St. Francis of Assisi's proverb. He was an Austrian-German dictator during World War II who was very evil and sinister. Hitler lived from 1889 to 1945. He was dictator of Nazi Germany from 1933 to 1945. He was very cruel towards the Jews, no matter where they lived. Hitler would torture the Jews and put them in gas chambers or other ways of torture. There was also a time called the Holocaust when the Nazis killed thousands of Jews. By the end of World War II, over 6 million Jews had been killed by the Germans. Because of all these actions and more, people can see that Adolf Hitler was not a compassionate or kind man, unlike St. Francis. Florence Nightingale was someone who was similar to St. Francis of Assisi. Nightingale became a nurse against her parents' will. She was born in Florence, Italy on May 12, 1820, and died in 1910. In 1851, Florence Nightingale traveled to Germany to study nursing. During the Crimean War, British soldiers were wounded and she had to help. Nightingale would work around 20 hours a day, but she enjoyed doing her job. She also cleaned the hospital from top to bottom to make it a healthier environment for the soldiers. She became known as the Lady with the Lamp because she would check on the soldiers at night with only a lantern to give her light. She loved helping people and later received a medal for all of her hard work. Just like St. Francis, she cared for people and loved to do it. The lesson St. Francis of Assisi wants us to learn with his saying is that we need to be kind to all people and animals. We should not do it for ourselves, but most of all for God. We should not be like Hitler, but instead we should try to help people like Florence Nightingale did. You may not become a nurse or someone who has political power, but we can still do our best to be kind to people. As we do that, we can keep in mind that when we do it, we are pleasing God.